Harry, you're back in the UK, bruv.
I am. Eventful few days.
Yes, very eventful, which is going to be the is going to contribute to tonight's talk, because tonight's talk, or today's to this afternoon's talk, is just about how much power we have as human beings naturally. Not even that we're entitled to, that we just have our sovereignty as a human, just how powerful we are, and what we've been given by just being us, and yes, what we're entitled to due to the fact of what we are rightfully, inherently entitled to as human beings. And the reason this become even more relevant is because Harry recently came back from Brazil, which is a red listed country for those who don't know. And this isn't nothing, by the way, disclaimer, we're not going to start talking about beliefs on COVID either here, there, or ever. That's not the point of this conversation. The point of this conversation is knowing how much you're worth as a human being. So I'm hoping I've placed that, Harry, to some extent. Do you want to add anything before I start sort of firing off questions about what happened? Or
Yeah, just like you said, knowing our worth and understanding the power that we do have. And I think having this information can really allow us to make better choices, and also not to give our power away as easy as what we do in life as well, from many standpoints. And the information that we'll provide today and the information that we picked up over the years, knowing this information it's allowed us to make some really powerful decisions. And looking back, it's like, I'm so glad I had that information. And as me and James always say, we call ourselves sharers, and it's sharing information to allow people to have a stronger foundation to work from, but to be able to make a more empowered choice. And like James always says, it's the best gift you can give someone is a choice.
Definitely a choice that someone might not have had. And this is going to lead back beautifully into the 15-year-old girl with cancer that we've been working with, because this is all really poignant. But I had to start. So have you, in fact, you just want to just explain, why was you coming back from Brazil?
Yeah, so I've been out in Brazil now for 5 months, and I've got a loving mum who really wants to see her son, and it's my duty to come back and see her. And my parents have moved out of London now. They're now down in Barton-on-Sea, so I made a point to come back and see them. And I just had a bit of eventful 2 days of travel, and yeah, it's an experience, but I'm glad I've gone through it now. But I've got a story to tell, and I think there's some important teachings and stuff within that too.
So in regards to the eventfulness, if you like, so leaving Brazil, was there any issues you had leaving Brazil?
No, so from it's a red list country. And I was always told, and even on the government website and stuff, it says you have to do 10 days of quarantine in a hotel. It's $2,000 up front. And I've always said that I will not be doing that. I didn't have the time really to go to another country for 10 days. I just wanted to come back, see my family, but I want to get back out and get back to my life again that I've just started this year. So we've looked into many alternative ways of viewing the world, and one of the things that we looked into a long time ago is just knowing our rights as a human being. And with that, when you know something is true and something that you believe in, it's important to stand up for your truth and to stand up for your rights. And many people don't understand the rights that we do have. So I know that my rights when it comes to these regulations at the moment is it's not law. So no matter what people keep telling you, this is a new government law, it's a COVID law, it's not law, it's a regulation. And James, can you just quickly explain what common law is, and just an example of that, just like the law of the land, law of the sea, because I think that sets the...
No problem. So, and guys, as always, what we're about to share, please debunk us, because that would mean you're going to have a look yourselves. What we're sharing, I and Harry, are confidently sharing as truths that are written in law. So we have common law, which is the law of the land. Some people claim, let's say it's the law of God, whatever, it's the law of the land, okay? And then you've got admiralty law, which is the law of the sea, which should straight away you think, okay, if I was to now, with those two bits of information, what law do you think you are governed under, considering you live on the land? Common law, right? Unfortunately not. We're governed under admiralty law, law of the sea, which goes back with its its foundations to slavery. And this is how they got away with horrific, horrendous crimes at sea, including throwing people overboard because they was overstacked with slaves, is due to admiralty law, law of the sea, okay? The difference being, and think about this for a second, people, common law, law of the land, law of God, if you're religious, okay, is quite simple. Do not harm anybody else. Do not steal from anybody else. So basically, there is no victim.
Oh, and disturbing the peace as well.
And disturbing the peace. Yeah, the three of them. And disturbing the peace. So either way, your actions do not cause any harm to another human being. That's the law. If you fail on any of them three, then you've committed a crime. Because what you have done, in layman's, has had a detrimental effect on somebody your equal, another human being. That is a crime. Anything outside of that, meaning that it's a victimless act, there's no one suffering because of your actions, you have broken no laws whatsoever. And that is a very layman's overview, but guess what? It is as simple as that. Very, very simple. So common law, there has to be a victim. Legal or admiralty law is all acts and legislation. And guys, even in the name, act. It's an act. It's not real. So is that a good enough overview, mate?
Yeah, I'll just add on to it. So as a human being, we are this human entity. So we come onto this and we're entitled to live our lives a truthful way. And like James said, we have these three laws that all human beings should abide to. And if you're not, you are criminalizing. But also as a human being, when we're born, and this is what many people don't realize, that we have a birth certificate. And when that birth certificate's signed, that's a contract. So we're effectively two people. We're a contract to the state, and we're this human entity being. And as we go through life, we follow these rules and regulations and acts. That's to your contract, whereas the laws is just to this human entity. So I hope that makes sense. It'll make more sense as we go through.
Definitely, it's bang on, mate. So yeah, I mean, that gives an overview, and we will touch on, I think it'd be nice to hear your story, and then we can go back to where common law and how well you did by just holding to your truth versus what you was up against, which was police officers, because just like human beings, funnily enough, police officers and police men or police women are two, even though it's one individual, are two separate entities. A police officer is a corporation. Nothing to do with the law, believe it or not. Nothing to do with it. That's why you should never address a police constable, a police human, as an officer. Because straight away, you're signing in to them as a contractual being, meaning that you're in that admiralty law of the sea. That's not where we exist. We exist on the land. That's a constable, a human being that has sworn an oath to protect and serve us. So with Harry's story, coming back from Brazil, knowing his humane rights as a human being, where did it start going wrong? Where did you get caught up initially with the police?
Yeah, so I come back from Brazil fine. From France, I come back to the UK, and I always knew that there would be some sort of conversation to allow me into the country, because I wasn't going to be doing the 10-day quarantine. That I already made it clear that's not going to happen. but immigration won't let you into the country unless you just go straight into the hotel. The documents have to be signed. So the first thing when it comes to acts is the government have set you a passenger locator form. So whenever people are filling this in, you just have to be careful you're not agreeing to put yourself into these situations where you agree to go into these quarantines. So it said, are you booked in for quarantine? And there's a part on there that says I'm exempt. And it asks you for all these different attachments. But just looking at the exemptions, there's so many different reasons why you're exempt. But it's just like, right, if you're a footballer, you're exempt. If you're this, you're exempt. And just on that logic alone, it doesn't make sense. So I then got back to the UK, put my passport, Terminal 3, put my passport in the machine, didn't work. And what I didn't realize that my suitcases had automatically been directed to another terminal because I was coming back from a red list country. So when I went to the other terminal, I went to the immigration and they said, oh, have you booked into your hotel? And this is where it all started for me. I said, no, I won't be going to a hotel. Yes, you will. No, I won't. It's not against the law. I'm entitled to come back into my own country, the country that I was born into. And the supervisor was behind, you will fucking go to a hotel or you're not coming in and we'll get the police on you. And I said, okay.
And just to emphasize, Harry, just to make an observation for people, this is how they were talking to him. Harry videoed this, which he shared with me. And something that Harry just said, it has to resonate. Harry just said he knew that not only wasn't it a law, it was against the law to be forcibly made to pay to go and quarantine in a hotel is against the law. The only reason they're allowed to do this is because you sign a bit of paper to say, basically, yeah, I'm going to play your game. In layman's terms, it's not law. It's nothing to do with the law. But there's my signature, which we're going to touch on the power of signature. So sorry, just to make that observation for those who, because you skipped part, you said it so truthfully because it's the truth, but for those people out there that are just feeling that something's not right and are on the fence with everything that's going on, please understand the things that they're enforcing are against the law. Simple as that.
The only reason it becomes law and you can get arrested and you have to do it is when we agree to it. And this is where all these contracts come in. So just to give you an example, like we can get arrested for speeding, or we can get arrested for anything that happens within our car. But we've signed, it's an act, we've signed the Roadside Driving Act. We've agreed to that, to drive the car. So if we break those laws, those regulations, we've already agreed to it. So we have to abide by it. So if anyone ever tells you that, oh, this is an act, this is the regulations, if you haven't agreed to it, then it doesn't mean anything to you. And again, all of this stuff is not to be rebellion. All of this stuff is I'm a decent human being and I'm sticking to my laws. And if it doesn't fall out of these three, not disturbing the peace, harming other people,
or stealing,
sorry, then I know I'm fine. And I know that. What we're met with though is fear. And you can look at bailiffs, taxes, debt, all these paperworks that come and all these court letters and stuff. That's done out of fear. And in the end, we give in. So I come to the desk and they said, you're going to, this first thing he said, the supervisor, £5,000 fine straight away for you then. You're going to pay a £5,000 fine and you're going to the hotel. This is going to get the spiral out for you. So I said to him, what law is that? Oh, it's the COVID and regulations. I went, yes, that's not a law. Yes, it is a law. It's the emergency law. I went, can you show me what law that is, please? Oh, and he got really angry. And this is another thing to people. Disturbing the peace means when you can get aggressive. So the one thing that I knew is that I'm going to be calm. Because when you're disturbing the peace, then they can arrest you. You're breaking our human beings. So I said, can you show me what law that is? And he was getting really frustrated. £5,000 fine. Another thing that we're entitled to is our mobile phone, and that has been changed recently because the police used to abuse the powers when people got their phone out, and they used to just take it off you. They're not allowed to touch you. So I got my phone out, and you could see this guy was really startled. You can't film me. It says you can do it. It's a public place. You're not letting me into my own country. So can you tell me on camera then, just for my record, what law am I breaking right now that's stopping me coming back into my own country? He went off and oh yeah, so he started getting quite angry, and I said, well, you're going to have to get the police to come then. If you're not letting me in, you're going to have to get the police to come. And this is what I was then preparing myself for. So he's gone off. The guy behind the thing, really nice guy. And again, I'm having good conversations with him. He's filling out my 5-gallon form. All I know in my head is I'm not signing anything. And this is another thing for people. Do not sign anything if you don't agree with it. And you don't have to do it right then, right there. I've also been told something now, if they're really forcing you to sign something, you've got something to be, you can type in VC, all rights reserved. And you can go on, but it's still, that doesn't fall down on you. So that's something I can come back onto after. And so he's gone off, and I know the police are coming then. I've been looking into common law now for a long time, almost 10 years. James has actually won a court case by going down this route as well. There's a documentary I highly advise everyone to watch. It's called the Strawman documentary. And it just tells you what your rights are as a human being on so many different levels. So one of the things when, I'll mention this now, when police pull you over, the first thing a police officer will always ask you, can you give me your name and date of birth? If you give your name, you've agreed into this verbal contract. So you're now playing their game, as James said. But if you say, am I obliged to answer that? They have to say no. So then, and again, if they said yes, they're not sticking to their oath. Every police officer has to sign an oath because their job is to protect us, the people. They're a public servant. But police, a lot of times they don't even understand the oath or really know too much about common law. But also they have their own targets and things to meet as well. They get commissioned for different arrests. So they trick you into things. A policeman cannot search you without real evidence as well. But sometimes they come over, they ask for your name, and then if you've given it to them, they're entitled to search you. So again, it's just knowing what your rights are on that. So I had a friend who's studying common law at the moment, and I quickly phoned him up and said, can you give me your teacher's number? I just want to confirm what I'm going to say, because I preempted this in my head the whole 11 hours on the way back from Brazil. And the other thing is these COVID restrictions, regulations, I personally don't agree to them. I have so much evidence and so many things if it was to go to court, I'd be able to win just with the research I've done, because they wouldn't be able to justify their reasons for it because there's no evidence to back it up. So that was another thing that I had in my head. And so she told me, look, when they come, they're going to come in, they're going to be given all these words, they're going to be quite scary, but this is all you need to say. Please say it word for word and you will be fine. So she said, first of all, and I did it exactly as she said, ask for their warrant, ask for their full name. She said, they will say no straight away. Then ask them again, and they will say no, they'll be a bit funny, and then ask them a third time. If the third time they don't give them the name, you then remind them of the Police Act of 1995, and if they impersonate a police officer because they haven't given over their identification, that's a 6-month prison sentence for them instantly. I've got this whole thing being recorded as well, just to back it up. So by the third time, I reminded them of their rights, and they both straight away gave me their number, name, and their surname of the police officer.
Harry, can I just make an observation on that as well, because these are such big things. I know we're used to talking about these things, and I don't want to be patronising. I just want to make sure that people understand the severity of that. So just by a policeman or woman, not a police officer, a policeman or woman, not disclosing their full name is such a break of the law of the land, which they swear an oath to uphold. The law of the land is what they swear the oath on, is they can be jailed. A police officer can be put in prison for 6 months for just not disclosing their full name. This needs to resonate. Think about anyone out there who's had interaction with the police. Think about knowing this stuff, actually knowing that they should be on your side from the minute there's interaction. That second, that police human being is there to serve you. And that's not us trying to take the piss out of them. To be honest, if the police were serving us like they'd sworn to, how great would the police be? What a fantastic service to have. People that uphold the law of three simple things: making sure no one hurts somebody else, making sure no one steals from somebody else, and making sure someone doesn't disturb the peace. Think how generically powerful those three simple laws that they're supposed to uphold are. And like Harry just said, that's how important the law of the land is, that they can go to prison for 6 months for just not giving their name over to you, which they are lawfully obligated to do.
Mm-hmm. And again, I wasn't allowed back into my country, so I had to get the police there because they weren't going to let me in. So the police's job really was, go on, you can go in. Like, you're not breaking any laws here. And that's what I keep asking, what law have I broken? What law have I broken? No one can answer that. So I know I'm fine. So they should let me in. So then it led to the next bit. So I've asked for their name 3 times. They didn't give it. And when I reminded them of the prison sentence, straight away they gave the name. It's exactly what that woman told me would happen, like clockwork. The next question I asked them, are you guys acting under oath? They have to say yes, because if they don't, again, that's a prison sentence. So they look at each other, they got all their guns and stuff, their body armor on. So they said yes. And they're trying to go on to the conversations again because they try to trick you with their words. And next week's episode, me and James are going to touch on the power of the words that we have. It's incredible. Like, as a human being, the influence it has on our system, on our mindset, healing. But we'll come on to that. So I said, are you guys acting under oath right now? And then they said yes. And I said, okay. This is where I got quite smart. I said, okay, so I'm just going to remind you of Section 26 of the Criminal Justice Act of 2015, Section 26, subsection 3. Would you like me to read that for you? Okay, I'll read it for you. And you can see they're looking at each other. I said, any constable, he or she is going against the legislation and they're willingly knowing that they're doing it wrong. That's a 14-year prison sentence. And so I said that, I've got that on video camera now. So I had to remind them, because they're getting involved with something that's not against the law. So they're not now upholding their oath. They're now getting involved with a legislation or regulation that I haven't agreed to. So it's almost like it's nothing to do with them. My problem is with these people, the immigration officers, and the police are coming really to protect me. They should be on my side because I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't broken the law. And again, it seems quite crazy, but this is what we're entitled to. So I said that that's a 14-year prison sentence. They just completely ignored what I said then. And they said, well, we're not stopping you coming in. I said, well, you're not acting under oath then. You need to let me in. I haven't done anything. You're going to have to go to the hotel 10 days. If you don't go to the hotel, we're going to arrest you and we're going to put you in a cell. My response was, please arrest me then. I'm happy to go to the cell. I'm not going to the 10 days of the hotel. I'm not paying the fine. I've already got another $5,000 slapped on me by the immigration officer there. I'm not doing that. So I recorded it, went back and forth for a little while, but I just remained calm. And you could see the officers were looking at each other. Do you want to arrest him? Or do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? Because they know that they're in the wrong here, but what they try to do is scare you. No, you have to go. Everyone has to go to the thing. There's no getting out of this. So they put me in cuffs. I kindly said, sir, I call him sir, can you please make sure that my suitcase comes with us because I've got some important stuff in there. Yeah, don't worry. And they're being all nice to me, like we didn't have to do this. They've stuck me a van, took me back to the police station at Heathrow. And at that point, they opened the van just before I was about to go in. The sergeant comes out as well. And again, give me the same lecture. You're going to have to go. You're now going to have to do time in here. It's going to come with more charges. This is going to spiral out of control for you. Are you sure that you've got a last warning now? I said, no, I'll go in the cell. It's fine. And you could see they're looking at each other. Then they weren't used to that at all. And in my head, I'm weighing it up. I've got 24 hours in the cell maximum. versus 10 days.
Touch on that, because that's really important for people to understand. Why did you know, not believe, you knew that the maximum they could hold you for was 24 hours? How did you know that?
I had a piece of paper that they gave me with my rights on it. So
Right,
guys, and the reason why I say that, because I know I haven't broken any laws, I can't be in trouble for that. So if I stay in there for 24 hours, that's the maximum they can keep me in there for. Then it has to go to a judge, but it also says on a piece of paper. So I've kept this in my head, but I'm weighing it out. I want to see my parents, but I want to get back out of the country so I can live my life again. So they put me in the cell. I'm in there meditating, calm as you like. And so I got my, you get your phone calls, and it's not like America. You don't just get one phone call. You can write a number of numbers down. So I called my parents. I just said, got a few complications. I'll be home soon. Didn't tell them what was going on. And then I couldn't get hold of the solicitor who was advising me. So when I'm in the cell, the police officers then come in and goes, "We're going to be taking you to the hotel soon." I was like, no, like, we haven't sorted out this yet. First of all, I'm not going to the hotel. And when he said it, and I've already seen the paper they've given me, I said, no, I'm going to stay in here for 24 hours until the judge decides, and we can go from there. Again, I knew I'd win at that point. He then goes, "You're going to have to go. I'm going to drag you out of here, and we're going to take you to the hotel." And when he said that, and the tone really changed, I could see a bit of panic in him. And I said, "You've gone against your oath. That's 14 years prison for you." And he said, without even thinking about it, "I didn't arrest you, it was the other person." And I knew straight away then that I had something. So at that point, I said, "Why am I in this cell? It's not, guys, it's not nice in the cell. It's manageable, but it's not nice. There's a toilet there. There's a sink there. There's a padded thing. It's not great. But it's not scary. You're not in with any other criminals. You're not like," so I'm still weighing up these options. But I said at this point, I'm being treated like a criminal here, and I haven't broken any laws. I'm in this room. I should just be in a room with a table. There's a glass window. I'd have preferred something like that. I said, "Let me speak to my solicitor now." And they said, "Oh, we've got a solicitor for you." I said, no, I want to speak to my one. I got her on the phone, and she said, "Just put me on to the detention officer." And she just gave him a lecturing, and you could see that the other two didn't even want to talk to her. He come off the phone. I said, she's good, isn't she?" It's like, yeah, she knows her stuff. She's ruthless. And the funny thing is I was having a good conversation with all of them. I'm not a bad person at all. So the sergeant then come, and she said, "Right," and this is 6 hours later on. And what my solicitor said, for every hour that I'm in there, she's going to be charging them a lot of money, because I haven't broken the law. Common law is against the individual, so this would be suing the police officer and charging him with 14 years for a prison sentence as well. This is what we can scare them with now. So we've got leverage. I've got this on video cameras as well. I haven't done anything wrong. I've been polite. So the whole thing's being documented. So I know what's going on. So the sergeant comes and said, "Right, we're going to let you go with no charge now." Just that alone, they're guilty as anything. Like, why? What? Like, if you just ask in court, why did you let him go then? Why did you arrest him in the first place? But she said, "We still have a legal obligation to drop you to the hotel because of this COVID pandemic, and you come with red zone." I said, "Great." I didn't even get to do anything at this point. They stuck me back in the van. They drove me to the Bath Roads, and I'm not sure if people have experienced the 10-day quarantine hotels. It's horrendous. All the hotels on the Bath Road, they're like prisons. They've got security all around there. People just walking up the car park. You get an hour or so a day, and then you're locked in your room the whole time. And this is for...
Can I just say, Harry, very quick observation on that as well, because again, these are touching on things. People, please look into what he just said, because I've said this on camera before. I've been to prison, and I had more time outside my cell than what these people, these normal, your family members, your loved ones, that just like Harry might have gone to see a loved one. You know, it might be someone who's getting old and not had the chance, maybe not get the chance to say goodbye.
For the record, I've lost 2 people this week. My family have both been to funerals because 2 people in my family have died. So I wanted to come back and be with my family.
Right, classic example. And these, you normal people, just like Harry, are taken. They're calling them hotels. They are detention centres. You're not allowed to leave. You eat when they tell you you can eat. You sleep, lights out, lights on when they tell you. This is what's actually going on currently in our country, in England. For all that could never happen in our country. I'm fed up of hearing that. I'm fed up of hearing that. This is what's happening in our country. So yes, these hotels that you pay for this privilege, £2,000 to be incarcerated for 10 days to live like this is what you're forced to do. Sorry, Harry.
Yeah. So again, the police officer who arrested me this time, he's now walking me to the police van and goes, "It could have been a lot easier for you, mate, if you had just done this." And this whole period, they're trying to convince you to go to the hotel now. Like, if it's, and that's trickery too. That's going against their oath. And so I'm in the van again. They've dropped me now to the hotel, and he looked at me right at the end. He said, "Harry, if you leave this hotel or try to escape this hotel, you're going to get another 10 grand fine you, and we're going to come and arrest you again." But again, remember, they've dropped the charges. I've got no charges on me, so I haven't done anything. So now they dropped me to a hotel. So they gave my passport to the hotel manager, and again, they went. I already said to myself, I'm not signing anything. So I went in there, and it's like, "You're going to sign this paper." So I'm not signing anything. And the hotel manager was screaming at me, "You're fucking signing this thing," and da-da-da. And I was like, "Excuse me?" And just for people to understand, he's a hotel manager. He's just another human being. I'm a guest. Like, there's no way that you can be talking to anyone like that and demanding and telling you what to do. He's got no status. So I'm like, so I got my lawyer on the phone again, and she said, "Put me on loudspeaker." She said, "Harry, grab your bags, walk out the hotel." And the security guys are trying to stop me. She said out loud, "If they touch you, that's assault. And we're going to sue their ass too. So grab your bags, walk out the hotel, get your passport, because that's theft. They shouldn't have your passport, and just go." And she said, "Harry, the police, they're going to call the police, but the police can come again." And she said, "It might be a nuisance, but if they do arrest you, you go through the same process again. They can't arrest." It's like me visiting a hotel now, like just normally, just visiting a hotel. I've walked in, I've decided not actually, I don't want to stay there. I went to the reception, did a few inquiries, but I didn't say anything. So I decided to walk out again. That's effectively what I did. And now they're throning the police on me for walking out of their hotel, because they thought that I've already agreed to this 10 days. The police have dropped me there, and now I'm breaking it. If I'd have signed a document to say, yes, I'm doing it, I've signed to say I have to stay in this. And if I don't, the police are entitled and the security entitled to stop you. They had no right to touch me. So I then went out with my bags, and the manager's chasing me down the Bath Road, and I just want to go. I just want to see my parents. And he's on the phone to the police, and finally I get away, and I get in a cab, and now I'm free. So I'm a free man. I haven't broken any laws. I'm not doing quarantine. I'm the healthiest I've ever been, even though it's a red country. I lived a really healthy lifestyle out there. Great food, great weather, great people. Like, it was a good way of living. So even that alone, I'm not putting anyone at risk, no matter what anyone says. And people then say, "Oh, you could be carrying it still." If you just look, there's no science at all to say if you haven't got something, you can't carry it. That's a myth, and that's what carried this whole thing. But again, we're not talking about beliefs and stuff on here at the moment. It was just what we're entitled to as a human being, a law-abiding citizen. So that was my story, and that happened literally 2 days ago, and that was